All right. Thank you so much to all of you for joining today. My name is Amy. I'm the Customer Success Manager at Pressbooks. And as a part of OE Week of 2024, we are hosting this quick 30-minute session about the Pressbooks Directory, which is a free and open to everyone repository of over 6,000 books. And with many of these resources being openly licensed, we want to show you how you can reuse them and adapt them for your purposes. So before we get started, I just want to gauge your level of understanding of what the Pressbooks Directory and of what adapting is. So the first thing I wanted to ask, you'll see a little poll, is how familiar are you with the Pressbooks Directory? So you should be able to see that poll now. Okay, so it looks like a lot of our audience is not familiar with the Pressbooks Directory. And we have one more question before we get started, which is how familiar are you with adapting openly licensed texts? So you should be able to see that poll soon. Okay, so so no one is an expert at adapting textbooks, and it seems like some people are somewhat familiar, and most people and a lot of people are not so familiar. So I will gear the session for that kind of audience. So imagine that you go to your local library, and this local library has textbooks from all different kinds of institutions, and they're all sort of aligned by a similar sort of principle that you have. So they want these books to be readily available for everyone. That's why it's in a library. But imagine that instead of having to walk down to your local library where it's physical and they had to bring all these books from different places using trucks and planes. Imagine that this is a digital library. It's a digital library, and all the books in it are created or adapted by authors just like you. So authors who work at post-secondary institutions, librarians, other instructional designers at their institutions, except they've made these books free and to access and sometimes openly licensed, meaning that you can take these books, you can reuse them, you can adapt them in your classroom, and what we call localize the book to fit your needs. So add or edit or remove content from your book to make it more adaptable for your classes and your purposes. So that is what the Pressbooks Directory is. And I'm going to share my screen so that we can get started with the session. So that is what the Pressbooks Directory is. So there are over 66,000 books, nearly 6,500 open access books that are all free to access, and most of them being openly licensed, meaning that you can reuse the book for your specific classroom across 173 organizations. So these are organizations that work with Pressbooks to create these books. So all of these books on here, you can read and you can reuse. And depending on what the license is, you can reuse it for your classroom. So today we're going to talk about three things: how to find the content that you want to reuse or take inspiration from. The second thing is how to reuse and adapt this specific content for your specific classroom needs. And third, how you can add this book into the Pressbooks Directory. So in the next 20 minutes, that's what we're going to cover. If you have any questions, let us know. There's a Q&A function and the chat function. And the last thing is, at the end of the call, if you are interested in learning more about the Pressbooks Directory and what it can do for your class, stick around and we'll send out, well, you don't have to stick around. We'd appreciate it if you stuck around, but we'll send you a follow-up email. And in that follow-up email, you'll have a link and you can fill out a form to meet with us again in a more one-to-one capacity. Also, my last caveat is that I'm quite ill, so I apologize if you hear a little bit of sniffling or congestion. So that's my last little note there. So going back to the Pressbooks Directory, like I said, there are over 6,000 books in here, and you can navigate the Pressbooks Directory using a simple set of filters on the left-hand side. You can also go up to the top and click toward the directory, and it will give you a bunch of tooltips that will show you exactly how you can search the directory to get what you're looking for. So these books, just at the top, naturally filter by new books that have been added into the directory, but you can also filter for the left-hand side. So let's say that you're looking for a book with a very open license. So a Creative Commons, the CC BY license permits you to adapt and reuse and make as many changes to the books as you want, so long as you credit the original author. So you're looking for a license as open as possible. I want to filter for that. You could also see all of the different subject areas on the left-hand side. There are nearly 700 different subject areas. If you're a librarian or an instructional designer, or you're familiar with categories, we use the theme subject category. So there's, as you know, thousands of them. So many of them are covered here. So let's say I'm looking for a book on sociology. You can go into the network, and you can see all the different institutions who've worked on books on Pressbooks. So you can see that I'm limited by CCBY and sociology. So there's a small group of schools who've created books that are both CCBY and sociology related. But if you actually remove these filters, you'll be able to see that there are many, many, many institutions. So like I said, over 170 institutions who use Pressbooks. And if you don't know if your institution uses Pressbooks or not, this is a really great way to check. And if it is offered at your institution, then you get to have access to Pressbooks as well. So it's really neat, and hopefully you get to work on a book that ends up in the directory. There's also a series of collections. Our Pressbooks librarian had created these curated collections of different sorts of books that authors might be interested in. So a lot of them are featured up here. So if you're looking for an interactive OER, interactivity being defined as books with a certain set of H5P activities. So H5P is a plugin that we offer on Pressbooks where it allows you to create over 50 different kinds of interactivities, ranging from an essay writing tool to an image hotspot tool to very traditional interactive activities like fill in the blanks or drag the words or multiple choice questions. And you can also filter for that down here by inserting the number of H5P activities. You can also check for the language of the book if you're looking for a specific language. So you get the idea. There's just a set of filters that make it so that you can look for your specific book that you're in search of. And you might be wondering, hey, this is great. I've now, let's say, going with the physical library metaphor, I've, rented this book from, I've taken this book out from the library. But let's say that I want to own this copy now. How do I acquire that copy, right? Because at a physical library, you can't just rip off the tags or, go to a manufacturer and say, I want an exact replica of this book. But luckily, we're on a digital platform, meaning that all of those processes are really easy, and Pressbooks has designed and created a platform that is very easy for you to take an openly licensed book on the directory and create an exact copy of that for yours to keep and for yours to edit. So here we are. I was scrolling through the directory today thinking about what I should demo, and I found this really cool book that was created by the Louisiana Library Network that represents the entire state of Louisiana. It's a really awesome book because not only is it fully openly licensed, it's a really large book with a lot of authors. It seems to be very comprehensive. It was edited very recently, and it's got a bunch of these H5P activities that I was talking to you about. So what I did was I went on the book and I thought, I would love to demonstrate this for my audience today. And what I did was I went onto my Pressbooks network. So if you have a Pressbooks account, you would navigate to your institution's Pressbooks network. And like I said, if you're new to Pressbooks, or if you don't have a Pressbooks account, or if your institution doesn't use Pressbooks, then we'll send you a follow-up email and you can inquire further with us, and we'd be happy to chat with you about how you can get access to a Pressbooks account and connect you to the right people. So where you're going to go is on your network, you're going to go to clone a book. And what this allows you to do is, like I said, clone an exact copy of an existing openly licensed book onto your network. So in this case, what I would do is I'd copy this URL, copy that in there, and I'm going to give this a new book URL. So now I'm choosing the URL where I'd want this book to live on my institution's network. So that's my institution's network. And from here, I'll call this human anatomy. So from here, all I'd have to do is click clone book. And what this will do is create an exact copy of that book on my network. And we've also made searching really easy and navigable. So let's say I'm actually not trying to, look for a physiology book, or I'm actually looking for, let's say, a chemistry book. You can also search directly from the search tool here, which is the exact same as here. Obviously, going onto the actual directory is more powerful, but we've inserted this search tool down here on this page to encourage you to clone and to look for what kind of books are out there that you could reuse. So going back up to the original example that I was on, once you're ready to clone this book, you're just going to click clone. Obviously, printing a book entirely, creating a whole new copy of that book takes a little bit of time. This book especially is a big book. You can see that there's over 130,000 words. There's over 56 H5P activities, and it's a very full and robust book, meaning that it's going to take between 5 to 10 minutes to create an entire copy. So for the sake of time, I already did that this morning, and here we are. So once you click that clone a book, and once the book has been successfully cloned, you'll see a message that says cloning succeeded. It cloned all of these elements. And to summarize, it just means it cloned every single part of that book onto my network. And now you will see that there is my version of this book available to me on my network. So you will see that this looks identical to the original book, except with except it's in my institution with the URL that I gave it, but all of the information has been maintained. And when you go into a chapter, you will see that it's the exact same as what it looks like in the original book as well. So this is a really, really flexible tool that you can use to create that copy onto your network. And this is important for a variety of different purposes. Once you have it on your network, if you want to change the cover, and so that you have a picture that is better for your institution, and to replace the logo, all of those things you can do. You just have to make sure that the new copy that you created is adhering to the requirements of the license of the original book. In my case, for this book, because it was CC BY, I'm allowed to make any modifications that I want, so long as I credit the original authors of the book as having been the original creators. So you can see here that this book looks awesome, and it's exactly what I'm sort of anticipating or wanting it to be. And it looks identical to this original chapter as well, which is super cool. So there you go. That is how you can really easily create a clone of an existing book. And like I said, there's over 6,000 books to clone from. One of my favorite parts of my job personally is going into the directory when I have to do a demo and thinking about which cool book can I show off today, and create a clone of. So hopefully you'll have fun doing that as well. And one of the really cool things that I wanted to show you, obviously this is a very short demo, and I know many of you are new to Pressbooks, and like I said, you can edit the cover, and you can edit anything you want. You can edit the cover image, you can delete chapters. Let's say I don't like this first chapter. It looks great, I don't know why I would delete it, but let's say I did want to delete this. I could, replace the chapter, edit the chapter title, add in more images, remove images. I can really, all of those tools are available to me, and that choice is available to me at my disposal. But one of the really cool parts that you can take advantage of, going back to the directory, is remember how we talked about those H5P activities? You can reuse those too. So let's say that I've cloned this book, but it's missing an activity that I want. And I'm looking to add, instead of having 56 H5P activities, I want something closer to 100. But you don't necessarily have the time or the resources to create those H5P activities from scratch. In that case, what you could do is also filter for H5P activities. So let's say that I'm looking for subject area of anatomy. I'm looking for other books with H5P activities. So let's say that I want at least a minimum of 10 H5P activities to look from. So you'll see here that now I'm looking at 17 results of anatomy books that have over 10 H5P activities. And what's really beautiful is that on all of these book cards, when books have H5P activities, you'll be able to see that there's a little hyperlink above the number of H5P activities that the book has. And when you click on this, it will take you to that book's H5P activity list. And from here, you'll be able to see image hotspots. So from here, this example is an image hotspot example, but you'll be able to see all of the 49, yes, 49 activities that this book has and see what there is for me to reuse. So let's say that I'm, on this book and I'm looking around and I think, I would love to see what this is about, pneumonia. So it looks like this is giving me a CT scan or an X-ray of what pneumonia looks like in the lungs. So let's say that, yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. What you can do is click reuse and click download. And then from here, I should be able to go back to my book. And I should be able to go into H5P content, go into add new. And I can upload from here and click upload a file. Upload this H5P file and click use. And what's really flexible about Pressbooks is that not only can you edit the things on the books themselves, you can also edit the H5P activities too. So it gives you a full set of resources. It gives you a really robust tool to work with. So from here, you can see that you can, let's say, I can say image of pneumonia, and I can make other edits that I would like as well. And then I can click create. And then from here, I should be able to test out this activity, and then I'll be able to insert this into my book so that it seamlessly fits in with the rest of the book. And you can do that with virtually any H5P activity, and H5P activities also have licenses as well. So obviously, if it's an all rights reserved licensed activity, which is just the most restrictive version of a restrictive license there is, you obviously won't be able to reuse the activity, but it just goes to show you that this directory is a really powerful tool, not only to look at specific books where you want to draw inspiration from, but also allows you to bring in different sorts of activities as well, H5P activities and other content as well. So let's say that instead of an H5P activity, I want to reuse a chapter. So it looks like this uses a CC BY license, and it even says this open textbook has been imported into Pressbooks to make it easier for instructors to edit, build upon, and remix content. So we recommend you review and edit this book before using it for your own classroom. So this is a really cool book where they're very aware of the fact that a lot of authors will reuse their content and are almost encouraging you to do so, but that there's a cautionary message there to really have a look before you know exactly what you want to use. So in this case, let's say you want to reuse this chapter. You can copy different parts of this book, bring it into your book. You can copy and paste. We don't have time today, but we also have an importing tool where you'd be able to very easily import a single chapter of a book on Pressbooks into your book and reuse that specific chapter as well. So you can really create what we call a Frankenbook, where you can clone a book and then remove different parts, take different chapters and put it into your book. You can bring in images from other places. You can bring in H5P activities to really curate that book to fit your needs for your classroom, making it really flexible and easy for you to use without having that daunting task of starting a book from scratch, because we know you don't have time as instructors. You might not have the funding or the energy, or if you're teaching 5 classes, you probably don't have time to create a textbook from scratch. So this still allows you to maintain a level of control over what you're teaching with, while not having to dedicate your entire life and energy and evening and weekends into creating something from scratch, especially when something else that could be very similar to what you're hoping to write, something is already out there, right? So that is a very short intro on how you can use the directory and adapt those existing books to use within your classroom. The last thing I promised today is talking about how you can use books, how you can get your books onto the directory. And the directory is an open and free space where anyone using Pressbooks can have their book uploaded onto. And that means that any book, so if you're working on a book on Pressbooks and you don't have the words demo or test in the title, and you have over 1,500 words, your books will automatically end up in the directory. So it was a little bit of a trick question, I suppose, is that you can add to this existing library simply by being a user on Pressbooks and creating a work. Even adaptations and clones will end up in the directory as well. And you can see different, if you actually look in some of the really big, widely used textbooks, you'll often find that there are different versions of the same textbook on here. But it's cool because there's, a localized version for Canada versus the United States. There might be a French version of the textbook instead of English. So it's a very a collaborative and community-oriented space where you can have textbooks and educational materials of all kind. So that was my very quick 20-minute introduction into Pressbooks and how to adapt content for your classroom. Like I said, you'll all be sent an email where we'll talk. It'll include the recording, and we'll also show you. We'll also send you a link on how to book a meeting with us if you'd like.